From New Jersey, Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much. Pardon me, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Secretary. You know, I have a number of questions, and I've asked some of those in the past, and so I won't repeat those. But I chair the China Commission. I've chaired 105 plus hearings on human rights abuse in China, Xi Jinping's absolute malevolent behavior towards the Uyghurs, and all the other atrocities that are committed each and every day. But what concerned me with our, I believe, egregiously flawed exodus from Afghanistan was how dictators around the world, especially Xi Jinping, looked at that and his propaganda organs like the Global Times and said to the people of Taiwan, here's one editorial, why the U.S. will abandon Taiwan eventually. Another one was Afghan abandonment is a lesson for the Taiwan's DPP. And when you read it, they're telling the people over and over again in Taiwan that America's resolve was questioned, is questionable, that we will leave them too. And you know, I won't read the editorial, but editorials, because they are very, very disturbing. You know, dictators love weakness. They probe with bayonets, and if they can get away with something, they will. And I think the chairman is right when he talks about Putin as well. And you had said before how you thought they would be happy if we were bogged down for the next 20 years. But I look at it a different way. They look at how it was done. Yes, we were going to get out of Afghanistan, but the way we did it led to the loss of American lives, which we've seen the pictures again shown here. And we've all met with those families of those loved ones, and countless numbers of Afghans. So the impact of this, can you at least admit that to the dictatorships of the world, they saw that and they saw it as weakness, and they go to avoid if they think there was one. Secondly, how many Americans are still in Afghanistan? And post-Exodus, how many were jailed, killed, tortured, left behind? I know that there was a lot of talk that we encourage people to leave. But we all remember that Reuters broke that story about how the president had, in a conversation with Ghani, had said very clearly that even if we have to make it up in terms of the situation, to project it as if it's better than it is, and here's the way he put it. This is President Biden. And there's a need, whether it's true or not, there's a need to project a different picture. And that was done on July 23rd. So while we may admonish people to leave, they're listening to our own president who says there's a 300,000-man army, well-trained, but meanwhile, in back channel, talking on the phone to Ghani, he's saying, project a different picture. Very, very disturbing. I mean, we got to be truthful.
Thank you. Two things on this. First, we engaged in a sustained campaign to get every American in Afghanistan who was still there to leave. 19 messages to that community between February and August. And by the time the evacuation took place, there were still about 6,000 Americans left in Afghanistan. Now, who are they? They're almost all dual citizens, almost all of whom, had lived, worked, had their families in Afghanistan for generations. And so you were still down to 6,000, despite every effort to get people to leave, including offering to pay for their travel. The airport remained open until August the 15th. In the weeks of the evacuation, the 2 weeks of the evacuation, almost all of those 6,000 remaining, we were able to get out. We were left with a few hundred on August the 31st. There were a couple of hundred, and this is what I testified to, who had identified themselves to us. And keep in mind, as you know, when you travel to a foreign country or you leave a foreign country as an American, you don't have to register. You don't have to make yourself known. We made every effort to get in contact with everyone, but by the time of the end of the evacuation, there were still a couple of hundred American citizens left who had identified themselves to us and told us they wanted to leave and who couldn't get to the airport or get into the airport. There were several hundred others who were there and we knew of who did not want to leave, either because they didn't want to leave extended family members behind or they just chose not to leave. So after August 31st, as I said and committed to this committee and to this country, there is no deadline on getting Americans out of Afghanistan who want to leave. In the ensuing 3 months, till the end of the year, we got 500 American citizens out of Afghanistan who had identified themselves to us and said they wanted to leave. To my knowledge, every American who identified themselves and said that they wanted to leave has been given an opportunity to do so, and we've carried that out every single day. As to those who went back and some who got detained. We are working every day to get them out, to get them back. And we will not stop for the duration of this administration, and I know that the incoming Trump administration will carry that on if we're not successful in getting them
Amount
back.
of time. Are any in jail today?
Yes,
They are.
they are.
Any
These are Americans who went after the evacuation for a variety of reasons. We're talking
Gentleman's time
about
has
7 people.
expired. I am going to keep the 5-minute rule to strictly because I want every member to be able to have time to ask questions. Chair now recognizes Mr. Sherman.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for your service to our country. You bring up the fact that Americans in a war zone don't have to register with the embassy.